Alright, just because the following is technically phoned in, it doesn't mean it's another Ricky Starks match. No, this is going to be one of my best interviews to date. I'm going to be talking to an industry legend, indie comics royalty, and one of the hidden secrets of San Antonio. Don't believe me? Stay tuned. No, your eyes do not deceive you. This is, in fact, Ben Dunn's number. Of course, I'm blocking it out for the most obvious of reasons, because I'm more than certain he doesn't want to get flooded with more people just, oh my god, when are you going to do Ninja High School cartoon? Or, oh my god, when's that Gold Digger movie coming out? Oh my god, is there a season 2 of Warrior Nun? Actually, we're going to find that third one out in a sec, hopefully. Alright, number's going.
Hello?
Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Yes, it's Ian.
Yes. How's it going? You finally figure everything out?
Yeah. Got a good device going. So, anyway, I guess we can just get things started. Ladies and gentlemen, the individual on the phone with me right now is Mr. Ben Dunn, one of the, I guess you could say, lost gems of San Antonio with Antarctic Press. You know, when people talk about San Antonio nowadays, they talk about the Spurs, they talk about taco trucks, they talk about Lucha Libre, and they should be talking about you as well, and I don't know why they're not.
That's okay. I always let my work speak for itself. You know, there's no reason for people to know who I am as long as they enjoy the work I do.
Well, they're definitely enjoying the work you do with Warrior Nun kicking ass on Netflix. Congratulations for that again.
Well, thank you.
Now, I mean, who else has been blowing up your phone and sliding into the DMs to find out more about this? I can't be the only guy that got smart to actually interview you and talk to you about this.
Well, for the most part, things have been actually pretty quiet. I've done a few here and there, but overall, I sort of like the anonymity is the word is, and like I said, I just prefer people to enjoy the work, you know, and hopefully they'll glance at some of my other creations as well.
Oh yeah, but to get people caught up on why Warrior Nun's so great, what's the history of Warrior Nun?
Well, it's an interesting one. Back in the 80s, I had actually, tooled around with the idea of possibly doing something that was something similar to Warrior. Now, I've always liked strong female characters. In Ninja High School, two of my major characters are female. I did read a story that was, I believe, in the New York Times. I'm not sure, about a group of nuns who taught themselves martial arts, and I thought that was very intriguing. Also, at the time, I was reading a lot of Marvel and DC, and I noticed that in comics at that time, people that were, religiously based seemed always powerless and helpless in the face of evil or bad guys. They always had to have some sort of superhero come out, and I'm sure the writers at the time didn't exactly want to do anything that was controversial or religious because they were basically doing superhero stuff. But I was always intrigued by the fact that there was nobody of faith that, could stand up to the bad guys and the evil. So I got the idea. Of course, in the 90s came along. The bad girl craze had just begun. Image Comics had just begun. So I got the idea of combining the story I read and plus, my background, having attended the Catholic school for most of my life, and decided to combine the idea together to Warrior Nun.
Very cool. Very cool indeed. Also, your approach to the art style, very different than the traditional, dare I say, Liefeldian proportions that were starting to get noticed back in the day. You were doing more of a manga anime inspired twist, which, outside of Viz Media, Antarctic Press was the only other place where you could get that in the States, unless you just knew a guy who knew a guy who knew a guy.
Yeah. I was first exposed to manga back in the 70s when I took a trip overseas to Taiwan, where Taiwan at the time was bootlegging a lot of Japanese manga. Of course, I didn't know better. I just thought that it was just black and white comics, and it wasn't until later that I found out that most of the comics I was reading in Taiwan were Japanese bootlegs. But I really liked the storytelling and the art style. It was so different. And what really intrigued me was how, I'm not very good at reading the language. But I was able to follow the story even without knowing the language. So their storytelling ability was so powerful that I was able to follow or get the gist of the story without ever being able to read the language. And I said, I really like that way of storytelling. And plus the fact that it was told in black and white, there were no color comics in manga at the time, that they were able to make the most of the black and white artwork.
Yeah, they still kind of keep to that today, don't they?
Excuse me?
They still kind of keep to that today, don't they?
Yes. It's cheaper and it's faster. I mean, you have to understand that manga in Japan come out weekly, and they're always trying new talent. That's the one thing that in new story ideas, they have polls where readers can vote on their favorite stories. And it's really interesting. And plus, in Japan, Japanese, are voracious readers because a lot of them commute and they like to do something, or read something while they're commuting. And that's one of the things and plus, manga is dirt cheap. When I visited Japan in the 90s, I found manga just thrown all over the place and it was not difficult, to pick up manga, tons of it on trains, and at the train stations and just everywhere. It was disposable. Manga was not meant to be collected, except in the the collected volumes. It was basically the very cheap, disposable entertainment. And I liked that idea, and I thought I could bring it here. But American readers here in the United States are way different than those in Japan, because comics back then were still considered meant, either for the diehard collector, or reader, or meant specifically for young children. So it was difficult to try to change people's perception of what comics could be, especially for manga, which was new and different back then.
Yeah, you had a bit of an uphill battle, didn't you?
Well, surprisingly, we were able to survive, and there was enough people out there who were aware of it, of the manga, and who wanted to give it a try, considering that back then in the 80s and early 90s, there wasn't a lot of manga coming out. It was still fairly new, and we were able to build up a niche readership, that liked that kind of material.
Yeah, and I mean, today, look where you are. You've got, your show is, your property, which is now a show, is one of the trending subjects right now. People are getting into it. They're doing a lot of research. I've actually had a few friends personally message me like, did you ever read this? I heard it was a comic. I'm like, oh, yeah. I mean, I'll admit I don't have the entire collection on me to just toss out to friends, but I could always recommend, like, yeah, if they still have it in stock, look here. I think there's
Oh
some
yes.
people still on Amazon and eBay trying to shell out their copies now.
Hmm. Well, one of the things I specifically set out to do when I like to do comic book series is I like to build the world first and then populate them with characters. I like to get the setting, of what the world is like, and then I sort of populate it with characters that I think I would love to write about. And Warrior Nun was not any different. The thing about Warrior Nun was that it was actually an extension of Ninja High School. I introduced the characters, introduced the genesis of Warrior Nun in Ninja High School. And then I just sort of gradually spun this off into its own series. And what I like to do mostly is I try to plan the book so that characters, can change or evolve as time goes on. Because I know that I wanted to avoid what I call the Archie syndrome, where the characters remain the same through many, many decades. And I just don't see people accepting, the character would have to fundamentally change as decades pass. So I purposely set up the book that it's the world, that's important and not necessarily the characters. People like the characters, and that's great. But they will have to. What I like to do is like every, 10 years or so, I like to shake things up, change the roster a bit, introduce new characters, and then this way a new audience can latch on to the new dynamic. And I set up Warrior Nun to do the same way. The beauty of it is that the Warrior Nun universe is set up in such a way that you can do stories on almost any time period and with a whole new set of characters. You don't necessarily have to stick with just one set of characters. That's the beauty of the flexibility, of the series.
Yeah, and it's such a unique legacy character, which they kind of vaguely bring that up in the show because if you read the comics, clearly her name is not what it is on the show.
Well, I would like to think that, to be honest. For the longest period of time, for the last 26 years, the character's been around. Nobody really cared much for the character. It had its audience, it had its fans. They were pretty diehard, but they were small. And it didn't really take off in terms of. People were aware of the character, and I knew that the character, definitely was a big hit for AP in terms of its popularity and its sales. But it didn't definitely reach the level of, say, a Batman or a Superman or a Spider-Man for sure.
Well, true.
And it was never my intention to do that. I just wanted to create a character that people liked, and create the story possibilities,
That's true, but she is up there with the likes of like Madman and the Savage Dragon. There's more than a. Hey, she shared toy shelves with those guys, and people have said yes, she belongs up there, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, it's we've always been one of those companies that really felt that if anything we can do to help, increase awareness of comics, we would do it. When we saw Todd McFarlane doing his own toys, we were approached by a man who said that he could do toys for us as well. And back in the mid '90s, that seemed unheard of. I thought you had to have huge resources in order to pull that off. But he said he could do it, so we decided to do a Warrior Nun toy, and that opened the floodgates for almost every independent comic book company who had a character to be made into toys. And of course, it experienced a big crash, but at least we opened up the possibility of small independent companies to be able to produce toys. You no longer had to be a Mattel or And right now, the technology is getting to the point now that anybody now can produce their own line of action figures or toys or whatever, or print
Oh
their
yeah,
own
3D
comics.
printing? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's wonderful the way technology has opened up the possibilities for almost anyone now to take their creation, and make it come to life. It's just a matter of just sitting down and actually doing the work.
Which, like everything else, is so much easier these days. I mean, compared to what you would have had to have done in the 90s, I'm assuming putting in an hour's worth of work then is nothing like putting an hour's worth of work in now. Like you can probably start with the sketch and get it colored by lunch, right?
Well, I would like to think so, but an hour of work is still an hour of work, no matter whether it takes. It's just that the technology has changed now that you can have the opportunity to do things that were impossible back when I was we were doing stuff like for instance when we did the Warrior Nun animation, that was all hand done. There was no way. There was no computers that allowed you to do animation like you can do now. I mean, anybody with a desktop can practically do Disney level animation if they put enough time and effort into it. And I've seen demo reels from people who do special effects that are on par with anything that Hollywood is producing at the moment, just on their desktops. And so when we did everything back then, it was all still analog. We still had to do everything by hand, and it was, but it really all it took was, tenacity and money. That's what it comes down to, But right now things are come to the point where I see a rise of the individual creator being able to take advantage of the technology and create material that huge numbers of people can see if the material is good. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Is the material good? You can do all the fancy bells and whistles, but if you don't have a good idea, a good story with good characters, that's the foundation for anything. If you don't have that, then it's gonna crash and fall. So I'm just lucky that the people who produced the Warrior Nun series saw the potential of the character and decided to run with it. And I'm just grateful that they did that.
Well, very cool. And I mean, not only did it have a legacy, but it's got a fan following today of both past followers and recent streamers and binge watchers because of all this.
Well, I'm not under the illusion that things right now may be looking good for it, but I know that if the quality isn't maintained and the stories and characters are not taken to a level that people are still interested, it can definitely be a fleeting moment. So I'm not under that illusion. I'm hoping, and they've been very good about asking me for advice as far as how to take the characters and or recommend other characters and storylines that they think might have possibility. And there's that communication, and I'm hoping that and I'm very confident that they'll treat the characters with respect, treat the story with respect. I mean, I could tell they enjoyed doing it, and they really, really took the material seriously. So as long as they, as long as they take the characters and the stories into new directions and interesting directions, I hope it'll last a long time. I really do. But, it all depends on how they handle the material.
Well, when Shotgun Mary popped up, which thankfully isn't much of a spoiler, it's even in the trailer if you take the second to watch it on Netflix. But yeah,
True.
when she showed up, I knew I was gonna get flooded with messages from some of my gang, just like, dude, Mary's here. Like, well, yeah. It's like when Preacher came out and Arseface showed up. It's like, why are you surprised?
Yeah, I mean that was definitely a great moment, for me to see, material that I created in the comic books coming to real life. I mean, it does make you feel, like you've accomplished something, and that's I'm sure almost every creator hopes to someday see their creation reach a huge mass audience. And it's, the thing is that if you work at it and you really believe in what you're doing, you will eventually find people who will like your stuff and support it.
Now, were you offered your own Stan Lee moment, like, ever on the show? Because I tried to watch and I was like, I don't know, that looks like him, but I'm not sure. Like,
No,
are you sitting at one of the tables behind a book, or?
No, I was not asked to appear on screen. I'm sure they had their reasons. First of all, I'm not really that photogenic, so that could be a possibility. But I'm hoping maybe, if I come back, if they do a second season, they might ask me to do a cameo role. Who knows? But I'm not going to push it.
Yeah. Hey, all else fails, you could pull like a J.O. Bar and just walk by the screen, which would be still more than enough. He shows up in The Crow taking a TV.
I would definitely enjoy doing that, but truth be told, I leave it up to them to decide. I do feel like just seeing my name on the screen was definitely, good enough for me. So I'm not going to push it.
Well, still, congratulations on that, and you've clearly earned it. Hard work does pay off.
Thank you very much.
You're showing to be the embodiment of that. But let's get into some more of the stuff real quick. We've got a little bit of time to kill. I'm not eating into your lunchtime, am I?
No, of course not.
Okay, so you and your company did follow certain trends, and there's nothing wrong with that. You got your action figure. Allegedly, there were talks back in the day in Wizard Magazine about y'all getting a video game out of either Ninja High School or Warrior Nun or Gold Digger. That seemed to be like the holy trinity of your company. But one thing you didn't do, at least I never saw it, was like intercompany crossovers. Like I never saw Warrior Nun meets the Tick, which I would throw money at that myself to produce.
Well, we did cross over with a couple of characters. We were very close with Maximum Press, which was Rob Liefeld's company. We did a couple with his Glory character and his Evangeline character.
How did I miss that?
Yeah, we did a couple of crossovers with them. We also did a crossover with Everett Hartsoul's Razor character, which was very popular at the time. We did several with that, and I'm trying to think if we did some other crossovers, but I think those were the two biggest ones at the time. We never did crossover with any other characters other than bad girl type characters. But it would have been fun, definitely, if we had crossed over with Battle Pope or something else like that.
Like that would have been a match made in heaven, pun intended.
Definitely.
Warrior Nun in the background scene of a Preacher comic. It's there. The money was on the table.
Well, who knows? It's still a possibility. And now that things can always come. You never know. The opportunity may present itself.
Very true. More people are paying attention. And with this, I was at a comic shop just the other day, and, a kid comes in and is like, this Antarctic group, and they were trying to remember the name, but, since Warrior Nun got you a little more noticed, more of your stuff was getting asked and recommended and things like that.
Absolutely.
Heck, I still have my Sherlock Ninja comic, which I absolutely loved. You did a great job on the cover, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would make a great series.
Yeah, and that was just a one shot. I was ready for more. I was like, they established these great characters, Victorian England, but everyone's running around like Naruto. This would be great.
Well, you have to ask Fred Perry. He's the one who created the character, and he's the writer. But yeah, it's you definitely should. That's definitely a possibility. You never know.
And I mean, you were one of the groups that even pushed like the steampunk craze coming back. Like I saw Steam Wars, thanks to you guys, which was
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things...
Star Wars with coal. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. The thing is about this is one of the guiding philosophies around Anarchy Press, was that there's no way we could ever do anything better than Marvel or DC. I mean, they have been around for decades, and they know superheroes, so there'd be no reason really for us to try to compete with them head to head. But we realize there's audiences for other things that are not being catered to. Like at the time, manga was not big, but we thought, maybe there's an audience for manga. And same with steampunk, same with bad girls. All those things have possibilities. And the thing about it is that you can create. We like to see what market isn't being served, and see if we can find, comic book series that can cater to them. And we also are big believers of creator rights and creator own series. So we try to find creators who can deliver good, solid stories with great art.
Okay, is your company philosophy more, if the pitch is good enough, we'll roll the dice, or do you like to see like a final product and then you get the ball rolling?
Yes, we. Our thing is that we are not a large company, so our resources are limited, and we unfortunately, that's the thing is that we really cannot, unless they're company-owned IPs, we really can't develop series for creators unless they basically come with us with a complete series ready to go. And while we would love to have the ability to team up writers and artists and create books out that way, we really, like I said, don't have the kind of resources needed for that kind of situation.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what you can do, and you go with that. But some of the stuff you're putting out right now that's really got me excited, and got a lot of my retro friends excited, was your Exciting Comics that's come out. You found some of the classic, the Golden Age heroes and the Silver Age saints that just didn't quite break through the glass ceiling, and you're giving them a new breath of life, which I really dig, because it looks like your guys are, you and your crew are trying to respect the origins, but it's 2020, so clearly the Black Terror would understand how to at least use a cell phone.
Well, like I said, I do like the golden age of comics. I like the characters and the storytelling, and it seemed like these characters were just too good to lie fallow, in the ground. And I did a little research and found that a lot of golden age titles were in the public domain, so or weren't being used, or trademark had expired. So I thought, well, why not? Why not just take a golden age title? Because I wanted to bring back that old-fashioned feel of what it was like to read superhero comics that I grew up with. The old-fashioned, no-nonsense hero that went in and was a good guy who fought bad guys. And, but I also understand that the modern audiences expect a little bit more nuance, a little bit more complexity, in their superhero titles. So we decided, well, let's take we have a good basics for a foundation. Let's just tweak it a little bit and make it a little bit more acceptable to modern day audiences. So, and I just thought it was just a really cool and interesting idea, and we decided to run with it. So we started off with Jungle Comics, and then we expanded it to Exciting, and now we're doing Planet Comics. So, hopefully all of those titles will generate a following, and we can continue, doing new stories.
So what, Planet Comics is like Buck Rogers and Captain Tootsie and things like that?
What we're doing is Planet Comics is more like a space fantasy type stories as opposed to doing hard science fiction, because we figured, hard science fiction, that's difficult to write, to be honest, unless you can get a writer who really knows his stuff, it's really difficult to get science fiction writers to do, comic book adaptations. Plus it's just, I just prefer, the space fantasy material. To be honest, that's just my own personal preference. And personally, I like to see more stories like in the vein of Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon.
Which, I mean, those I think are going to be timeless. And don't get me wrong, a spaceship with a hyperdrive, that's great, and the intricacies are there. But if all it needs is 5 pink crystals and a dab of astro venom, hey, there you go. That can be just as exciting as repairing an entire hyperdrive.
Well, it's just like anything else. I mean, the thing is that it doesn't matter what genre you're writing for. In the end, you've got to have a good story and you've got to have good characters. I mean, no matter what trappings you have, in the end, people want to read a good story and they want to identify with interesting characters. So that's really the fundamental foundation you have to have before you can begin anything.
And of course, like you said, you're branching out with superheroes and jungle action and things like that. Are you also looking at maybe romance or horror comics?
Well, we are doing horror comics for sure. We have, in fact, we even have a title called Horror Comics. But as far as romance, none of us here really know how to do romance. I mean, if we were to get a submission for the romance comic and it was really good, of high quality, then yeah, definitely we wouldn't thumb our nose at something like that. It sounds like something that might have potential. It comes down to just if it's a good story with good characters. And if we were to get a submission that looked like something that we would attract the audience, then yeah, we would definitely give it some consideration.
So you're telling me if someone actually put the time in, developed a good storyline with dynamic characters, and it just happened to be a romance title, and it fit within your budget, you would definitely give it a try?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no reason why we wouldn't. I mean, it's one of those things that one of the things about comics is that the beauty of comics is that anybody can do it. You don't need a large budget. You don't need you don't have to have a lot of technical know-how. I mean, a person with paper and pencil, as fundamental as you can get, can create comics, right away. You don't have to be limited. They're only limited by the imagination of the creator, So, if someone were to bring us something that we were interested in, yeah, we would definitely take a look at it.
Well, I think we'll just wrap up there because I, always end with some good advice from the guy you're talking to. So I'd like to thank you again for this opportunity. Once again, congratulations on the success of Warrior Nun. And if you who have been watching and listening haven't gotten to check it out yet, it's on Netflix right now, season 1. It's 10 episodes. It's worth a weekend. Give it a shot. And Mr. Dunn, once again, thank you.
Thank you.
And you have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.
All right. Goodbye, sir.
Take care.
So that was my interview with Ben Dunn. Hope you got some great notes out of that, kids. And remember, all you gotta do is put in the work and someone's bound to like it. As for me, if you've got any interview suggestions I should check out while I'm pursuing new interviews, just leave a comment down below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Ring the bell to stay notified. And hashtag get behind the tank. I'm Ian Torch. This has been a rare AC Vent interview. Catch you later.